my creative friends! Today we're looking at some very dark, very different and very unique looking pencils. From a company that specialised in healthcare, today's pencils were created with an idea to promote and encourage the health benefits of adult colouring. These are one of the more striking pencils I've ever seen. The very unique and obviously very Black Widow pencils. When I started these tests, I set out to test as many strange and wonderful pencils as I could possibly find. I'm not sure if any I've seen have been as immediately visually stunning as these Black Widow pencils. But are they any good? Are they all flash and no fun? Do I dare use them, or do I just put them on display to impress all my friends? Well, we're going to find all of that out as we put them through our rigorous testing. First up though, let's have a close-up look at the pencils themselves. Today I have the Black Widow Scorpion kit of 24 pencils. The packaging is striking, colourful and glossy with a red and black border around a surprisingly thick feeling tin. The stylings are very bold with a large scorpion on the front. Top right we have the title Black Widow wax coloured pencils, and bottom right we have the Black Widow logo. If we turn the tin over, we have another bold bright scorpion and information that the pencils are non-toxic. It looks like these are another German designed pencil, but apparently made in China. When we open the tin up, on the underside of the tin we have more information and most pleasingly a colour swatch for what's in this kit. Some of these names are super funky with Grub green, delicious pink and pig's ear. It's also now I've realised I didn't buy a kit with a white, so no white tests in this review. Now that we've opened it up, we can see what makes these pencils famous. Living up to their name, they are black. Black wood, black shaft, black everything except the swatches at the end and the very, very vibrant cores. Each pencil is tucked snugly into place by the matching deep black packaging. If we grab some out, we can see that the pencils won't roll around if they have some removed from the kit. All in all, it's a very vibrant and dare I say sexy set of coloured pencils. At first glance, I know I really like these pencils. Whoever came up with the idea of black wood for black pencils is onto a winner, as it makes this kit look so interesting and inviting. I really should have checked for a kit with a white before buying this, and it doesn't look like it has a pure black either, but that's my bad. Also, the colours really hit you straight away. That with the shape and the vibe of the whole tin, everything is very cool, and I can't wait to try them. On the website, Black Widow pencils come in multiple kit options. Each different set have a different animal representing the tin. The ones I have here are the Scorpion set, which is a 24 pencil set. But they also have other 24 pencil sets in the classic Black Widow set and the Cobra set. Black Widow has two larger 48 pencil sets, the Dragon and the Monarch set, which is represented by the Monarch stag. Black Widow also offers two 24 pencil sets dedicated to skin tones, light and dark tones, which looks quite intriguing and I'll have to add it to my list. Interestingly, I'm assuming these sets are all colour or project specific, as they have such a specific range of colours in each set. What these projects are, I'm honestly not sure though. I'd assume with the concentration on adult colouring books, there would be some attached colouring books to each set, but I can't find any evidence of this. These pencils are a hexagonal shape. They are a silky black design with the colours of each contrasting strikingly with the black wood on the tip. The length of the overall pencil is 175mm and the diameter is a comfortable 7.8mm. These pencils are a wax-based pencil with a core of 3.3mm. The design of the pencil is classic and classy. They're a satin finish and remarkably smooth with only a light indent for the stamped information. On one side we have printed in white lettering the name of the colour, followed by the item number, which then is followed by the Scorpion logo. Last but not least, detailed near the base is an image of a cute tiny scorpion. There is a decorative silver ring that circles the whole pencil 2 centimeters down from the end of the pencil, which is capped with the colour swatch of the pencil, which gives us a feeling of opulence and class. The whole pencil shaft is black wood, coated in black paint with only the core and end swatches showing us the colour within. Overall, the pencils are an elegant and pleasant shape. The pencil also has a curved shaped end, which I like. These pencils are such a mood. Quirky kids and adults who love things that are a little bit unusual and unique will love these pencils. Personally, I've looked at these a lot for this test and the novelty of the black and the overall look hasn't even slightly worn off. They have a bit of an impact, you know. Normally I don't like hexagonally shaped pencils, but I've been learning about mobility and grip with pencil shape for a future episode, and this is why they're hexagonal. The idea being that it's easier for people who have grip issues to hold them. So I'm already liking the thought they have put into that. Well, that's the physical side of our pencils. Now I think it's time to go and test them. For our first test, we're doing our saturation and vibrancy test. What we're looking to do here is create some color swatches at varying different pressures to see how the pencils handle. This test basically tests the saturation and hardness of the lead. The softer the lead, the more pigment we're going to put on the paper. The Black Widow pencils are a wax based, and wax is traditionally softer and more vibrant, so I'm expecting them to give us a lot of colour. Because we can't test all the pencils in these packs, I'm going to pick 4 colours from each kit, plus a brown for the Black Widow, because we don't have black and white included in this set. We'll run the test on each of these colours and then assess the results at the end. The colours I've chosen for the Black Widow tests are red, Blood Red SC33, green, Grub Green SC93, blue, Blue Horizon SC17, yellow, Yellow Sand SC62, and dark chocolate SC40. For this test, the way I'm going to be doing this is by putting down pigment from the pencil at 5 different pressures: 25 gram, 50 grams, 100 gram, 200 grams, and 400 grams. We're going from light to heavy. We're going to see a lot of things in this test, but one of the main things is how much consistency these pencils can achieve, as well as how much control we have over them. Please be aware that the scales I have today are not the same scales you would use in a lab. They are, in fact, my kitchen scales, so they may jump around a little. Also, if you're a paper person, I'm just using basic 120 GSM white multimedia paper for these tests. Let's go check out what happens. Let's start with the 25 grams for our Black Widow pencils. 25 grams is a really light weight, so I don't expect the saturation to be terribly strong here. So far, the red's going down really easily and really smoothly. The red and the green also are very vibrant here, considering it's only 25 grams. The blue is exactly the same, but it is a little bit more vibrant than the red and the green was. The yellow is struggling here though, and is hard to see at this 25 gram weight. The brown, or dark chocolate you could say, is super vibrant and bright here as well. For the 25 gram, the Black Widow pencils are actually very vibrant at this stage. Moving into the 50 grams. If we have a little look at our red, we can see that there's not a lot of difference between the 25 to the 50 gram weight. There's a little bit, but not much. Same with the green, there's not a huge increase in saturation and vibrancy. The blue is a tiny bit more saturated than the other colours, and that yellow has only increased in saturation a little bit. The brown is exactly the same. While the saturation and vibrancy hasn't gone up a lot here, we still do have an increase with all of our colours, but not a 100% increase, which we would expect when doubling the pressure. Let's see what happens at the 100 grams. The red is instantly much more vibrant and saturated here at the 100 grams. The green is very similar and looks much more saturated and vibrant. The blue too has had an amazing increase in saturation and vibrancy. However, the yellow, I would actually say looks exactly the same as it did in the 50 grams, which is a shame because the other colors so far are just so much brighter and more saturated. The chocolate is actually much nicer and more intense at this 100 grams compared to the 50 grams. It has had a brilliant increase. Let's have a little look at the 200 grams. Straight away we can see that the red is so much more vibrant here. We've had a wonderful increase in saturation and vibrancy for the red. The green also has increased in saturation and vibrancy. The blue hasn't done as well, however. It's increased, but not as much as the red and green. The yellow, however, is actually starting to shine. We can actually see it here at the 200 grams. The brown also hasn't moved much in this 200 gram weight. Let's have a little look at the 400 grams now. This is the heaviest weight, so in theory, we should get some really nice saturation and vibrancy here. Starting with our red, we can see clearly we've pushed the intensity button here and can clearly see a super positive increase in our saturation and vibrancy. Same with the green and blue. It's like they've flicked a switch and have just turned up that intensity. The yellow is gorgeous at this 400 gram weight, and so too is the chocolate, and is really striking and warm at this 400 gram weight. Very interesting results for the Black Widow pencils. Now, these pencils advertise themselves as colouring pencils, and that's exactly how they have performed here. They're a little bit inconsistent across the board, which is okay, and I feel like we don't see their full potential until we hit the 400 gram weight. At that weight, they are very thick and saturated and vibrant. At lighter weights though, almost all the colours really didn't change that much between the 25 gram and the 50 gram mark, which isn't ideal. It seems like these pencils have a bit of trouble reacting to the lighter pressures in general, particularly the green and the yellow suffer through the lighter spectrum. However, I have to say that these pencils are very soft and thick, and they lay down a lot of pigment very easily once you hit that higher pressure, which I love. They are also nice and smooth to draw with, no lumps and bumps disrupting our pencil experience. I feel like these would be a pleasure to draw large blocks of colour with, and that makes sense with their intended audience being adult colourers. Let's grade our pencils now. On the scale of A to F, with S being superb, let's look at how these 5 colours performed. For the saturation and vibrancy test, I'm scoring the Black Widow pencils a good, solid B. And that puts them here on our graph. Our next test is the single pencil gradient. Here we're taking each of our pencils and making a smooth gradient. What we want to see here is a gradual stepping down through all the weights as I release the pressure on each pencil. This test is really an exercise in working from heavy to light. The easier the pencil is to control, the better the gradient will be. So how will the Black Widow pencils gradient? Let's see, shall we? Starting our gradient test off, we're using the red here, and there's actually quite a smooth gradient coming out here, starting with the upper heavy weight and slowly but surely pulling off the pressure. Again, we're seeing it struggle in the lighter weights. The green too is giving us quite a smooth gradient. We've got very little stepping here and a nice smooth pull off in pressure. The blue similarly isn't too bad here. There's a little bit of a rough transition from the 400 gram to the 200 gram weight, but it's not too bad. The yellow is okay, but we've got a bit of a sudden drop from the 400 grams and haven't really captured the 200 grams so well. The brown's gradient is actually pretty smooth, although like the rest of these pencils, it really hasn't hit that lighter end of the spectrum. The gradient here is actually pretty okay. They're not amazing, but would be totally fine for colouring. We have a good spectrum range of pressure in the red, green and brown, with each putting down a relatively smooth gradient. But some colours weren't so smooth. The yellow and blue have funny little steps down from the heavy weights to the lighter weights, which was a bit weird. But they kind of smoothed out again further along the gradient. Overall, these pencils don't have a super light end, which, to be fair, is pretty much the same across all of our tests. I do actually like how these pencils feel to use. The colours are smooth, thick, and the pencil glides nicely across the paper. You can really feel the wax in the core as you put the colour down. I'm also really enjoying the vibrancy at the heavy weights. If we aggregate our 5 pencils and give them a score, we can work out where they sit on our scale. I'm giving the Black Widow a B- in our gradient tests. And I'm going to add it here on our big scale. For this test, I want to see how all 4 colours blend together. What I want to see is a nice seamless blend between the colours and the colours mixing together rather than remaining separate. These are wax pencils, and unlike oil, which blends via layers, a good wax pencil pigment should mix on the page. Will the Black Widow pencils blend well? Let's go see what happens. I'm starting this test the same as the gradient test. We're going to try and create as even a gradient as possible with our red pencil, and then we're going to match it with our green coming from the other direction. The red has come down quite nicely, if I do say so myself, and the green has started off well. As our gradient goes up, we can see that they are starting to layer and blend quite well. If we pay attention to what's happening in the middle, we can see that the green and red have mixed and made like a brownie colour. Let's try our blue and yellow gradients now. Starting with the blue, the same way we did with our red, we're going to try and make as smooth a gradient as possible. Strangely enough, the blue kind of got a bit steppy right where it did in the gradient test, right at that 400 to 200 gram mark. Let's bring that yellow to meet it now. The yellow's gradient is quite smooth. As we combine and cross over the two, we start to see the pigment of the blue and yellow has blended and mixed fairly well in the middle to create a greeny colour. An interesting result. For this test, the first thing that stood out is that the colours remain very vibrant, but that took a lot of pressure. They blend fairly well from one colour to the next by mixing, which is what wax does. And while they have blended together relatively smoothly to create those new colours, they are perhaps not as vibrant and dominant as I would have expected. If we think back to some of our other wax pencils, particularly the Prismacolor, the blending of the colours there was much stronger and more dominant. Another thing of note here is that while the transition from one colour to the next is moderately smooth, which is great, but like the other tests, these pencils do suffer a little at the lighter weights, but it's not too bad. So let's grade them on our scale. I'm going to grade them a solid B for our blending test. That's going to put our Black Widows here on our big scale. It's time for the colour accuracy test. Colour accuracy is pretty important. We as artists like to know that the colours advertised on the pencil barrel is what we're going to get. The Black Widow have a really interesting colour range in each of their kits, and I'm curious to see if the swatches match the colour they put down. For this test, I'm bringing in the swatch at the end of the pencil and putting it next to the gradient we created earlier. We're just going to compare them by eye to see how accurate the colours are. Let's start off with our red, and we can see straight away that the red is a fair bit darker on the swatch than what it is in the pigment that the pencil puts down. Now for our green, the green is a little bit better, but the barrel is still a little bit darker than what the pigment has put down. The blue is vastly different. It's quite a lot darker than what the pigment's put down, which is such a shame as it's a really lovely blue. The yellow's not bad. It's still a little bit darker, but it's the closest out of all of them. And the brown's barrel is quite a lot darker than the pigment it put down. Sadly, the colour match here honestly was pretty bad, which is a shame because the cores put down such beautiful, vibrant colours. Black Widow have really dulled down their colours on the swatch of the pencil in comparison to what they put down. Honestly, I'm drawn to super bright, rich colours, and I think these pencils would be even more attractive if they were advertised correctly. Today, for lack of care and such a big difference, I'm giving Black Widow a C for colour accuracy. And that puts them here on our big scale. It's time for my favourite test of the day, the break factor. I've grown to love this test. It's a bit scary, but it's fun. Now what I'm going to do in this test is put pressure on my Black Widow pencil's cores until they snap. While it does look like I'm just having fun, which I am, this test is actually important because it tells us a few things: how hard they are, how strong they are, and how consistent the pencil's core mix is. So how much pressure before these Black Widow pencils break? Let's go find out. To make this test as consistent as possible across all the pencils we're going to review, I've set up a couple of controls. I'm going to sharpen each pencil to a point. I'm then going to dull them slightly by drawing 3 lines at pressure. Basically, this will make sure we don't have a super fine point that will break immediately. I'm then going to be using a 45-degree square to get a consistent angle of pressure. Makes sense? Let's go break some leads. As a wax-based pencil, I'm really curious to see how strong our Black Widow pencils are. Let's get this break test started with our red once more. Okay, after setting up, let's put on that pressure. Building it up here and slowly, and snap! That broke at 1,090 grams. That's much harder than I thought it would be. I can't believe this pencil took so much pressure. Let's see if the green's the same. We set up and start putting on that pressure. Building and bang! 767 grams. That's actually quite a lot less than the red pencil. Let's see what the blue does in this test. Holy moly, it just keeps building. And we're building and bam! 1,103 grams. I can't believe how strong these pencils are. Let's test the yellow now. Setting it up and let's put on that pressure. Slowly building and bam! There it goes at 1,057 grams. That's still really high. The only one that wasn't really high in these colors was the green. All right, it's time to test out that chocolate. Will we get the same result? Let's see. Building up our pressure now. Here we go. And snap! There it goes at 972 grams. While it's not as high as some of the others, it's still impressively strong. I'm quite surprised and actually very impressed. The Black Widow's breakpoint is much higher than I would have assumed for a wax-based pencil. When we average out all the scores, we get a result of 998 grams. That puts them right on the top of our graph, being the highest breakpoint we've had so far. These pencils are obviously designed to have people really dig in with their drawing, which would make sense as these pencils are designed for adults who enjoy colouring. But wax has a reputation, right or wrong, as a softer type of pencil, so I'm fairly surprised here. I'm assuming whatever binder they add into the cores, there's a lot of it, Or it could be simply that the Black Widow, being a more modern pencil, benefits from the newer technology for added strength. Consistency-wise, the breakpoint was okay, but not amazing. The red, blue, and yellow were close to each other, but the brown was on the lighter end, and the green was quite weak in comparison to the other pencils, coming in at 767 grams. I should mention here, holding the pencil at 45 degrees for this test was actually quite difficult and uncomfortable. I know the hexagon is supposed to be easier to grip, and I understand why they went this way, but it really gets so uncomfortable at certain angles. But perhaps that's just the price for using this shape. For our break test today, because of the lack of consistency, I'm giving the Black Widow Scorpion pencils a solid B. That puts them right in here, in the middle of our big graph. For my final test today, I want to know if these pencils spark joy or do they cause despair? This test is purely based upon my personal opinion and the vibe I've gotten from the Black Widow pencils. These pencils are cool. There's no getting around it. They've really thought about the customer they want to attract and have really tailored the pencil toward that. The black is really vibrant and really iconic. If I didn't own these pencils and saw them on a shelf, I'd be immediately attracted to them, purely because of the uniqueness of the look they have. I'm a little bit confused by the color range that's in each kit. I didn't realize in buying the Scorpion kit that it was a specific color palette, but that's my bad. That said, I'm so curious as to what this color palette is intended for. If anyone knows, let me know in the comments below. Performance-wise, across the board, they've remained fairly consistent. At higher pressures, they are really vibrant and really saturated and they blend okay. But in lighter weights, they really suffer. This is a bit of a conundrum for me. For our test, they've been mid-range, and I'm wondering who Black Widow sees as their primary market. Because of the pressure required to get that vibrancy and saturation, it does sort of discount the medicinal benefits for mobility impaired people. If you're struggling to grip something, how you'd put that pressure down to get the best out of these pencils, I don't know. It really feels they would be more of a benefit for older people or mobility impaired people if they were softer. Softer pencils mean they wouldn't be as strong, but they would also lay down more color at lighter weights. Anyway, just a thought. Overall, I'm going to say, honestly, I didn't like the Black Widow Scorpion pencils as much as I had hoped. They didn't perform enough like coloring pencils for me to ever use them for that, or enough like art pencils for me to fit them into my regular art. But I do love the look of them, and the whole vibe just makes me happy. So yes, I'm going to say that they spark a teeny bit of joy. I guess a little bit of joy for me is better than no joy. I'm giving them a solid rating of B- for our joy factor. And that puts them here. Okay, so we need to get an overall score for our Black Widow. And to do this, I'm going to average all the scores they received and go from there. So our total overall score for our Black Widow Scorpion pencils is, drumroll, a B-. So let's put the Black Widow pencils on the graph. Let's add these guys in about here. So that's it for today, everyone. Thanks so much for checking out these pencils with me. Let me know in the comments below if there's something I've missed or if you disagree with my findings. As always, I'll have another review for you next week. This time, it's the best of British pencils, the good old Derwent pencils. But if you want more of my stuff, have a little look around at the links below. And as always, I'm on Twitch most days, so come and hang out. That's it, everyone. Have a great day. Bye.